Now we're just concluding our Pennsylvania public land hunt, and I think it's really important to talk about two critical strategies when it comes to hunting public land. And they may seem kind of obvious, but I don't think you can overstate these two strategies enough. And one of them is and both of them involve hiding, but one of them is you really have to hide from other hunters. I like to find a location that I can get out to in a core area, get away from other hunters. It's interesting, we walked in an hour and a half on opening day, and we ended up running into another fellow that was out hunting, and he walked in an hour and a half from the other way. We ended up sitting 300 yards apart. It's public land. That kind of stuff happens. In that location, I've shot a few bucks over the years, and it's a good spot. Don't really see a lot of other hunters, but anything you can do to hide from other hunters, get into a core area where you can have a little space to your own. A lot of times that starts at the truck. And what I mean by that is, even when you're summer scouting, when I would scout in the UP of Michigan, you have a lot of ferns. So when I leave my truck, I don't crush the ferns. I try to make sure I can slip through them. I try to make sure that I'm not stepping in any mud holes, sand holes where people can see my tracks, see my direction of travel. And that's part of it. But really, one of the things we've seen them out here today, and have seen them in the UP when we hunted a couple weeks ago, is there's a lot of trail markers, whether people are leaving tacks all the way from the truck to the stand. It's one thing if you're putting some glow tacks right around where you want to hunt, 50 yards, and you can get in there. Ribbons, you see ribbons all the time. We see the nice little reflectors that you can pin on the tree. I think Hunter Safety makes those. But really important, try to get rid of the markers, try to get rid of the tacks, try to make sure that you don't give other hunters a direction as you're heading into your blind. Very important. At least you have that opportunity then of going back in public land and finding that location, that little honey hole that maybe you can even hunt for a couple decades and have some enjoyment. We hunted some of the same tactics and same places that we normally hunt out here. I've been hunting here in Pennsylvania on public land since '93 in this location, and really enjoyed it. But it all boils back to trying to hide from other hunters, get away from other hunters, and not let other hunters know where you're hunting, following you to your blind. Hunters, it just seems, really like to follow other hunters. It's always that grass is always greener somewhere else. Second, hiding from deer. Very obvious. But there's a lot of little things that you can do to make sure that you remain hidden from deer. Let's say, of course, deer scenting you. Everyone talks about their scent control. I'll see guys out here, they probably hunters that have practiced a huge amount of scent control to get into their spot. And once they're there, they're exposing themselves to get into their blind. They're walking through an open draw, an open hollow, open ridge top where deer can see them. Their clothing, their gear, very noisy, very loud. And so hiding from deer takes a lot more than just a good blind location. It takes a lot more than scent control. In fact, if you're hunting these hills correctly, like we were actually walking down the finger ridges, looking over down below, we found some deer, able to pass on a nice, little buck, and our scent was completely taken out of the picture. So at the same time, if I would have looked over those ridges and I had noisy gear, noisy gun, noisy boots, noisy clothing, then I'm spooking that deer before I even get a chance to look at it. I would say that accessing your blind, when you're in that blind location, you find that great spot to hunt, put your blind off to the side, the downwind side, the thick side, the area that you can access up a steep ridge behind some conifers so that you can actually get into that blind. That blind is hidden. That spot you want to sit down on the ground, wherever it's at, or a tree stand is hidden. You can get into that tree without spooking deer. You're on the edge of cover, so you're not walking right in and leaving your scent around. You're taking your scent out of the picture. And then, of course, you have extremely quiet gear. And I would say that being quiet and having quiet gear, accessing your stand locations quietly, and even departing quietly, sound is probably the number one reason that hunters spook deer. And if you focus on sound control, making sure that you're not alerting other hunters in the area of your location, that certainly transfers to deer. You can have a nice, quiet, calm hunt, maybe even find a little spot of slice of heaven out on public land in your favorite state that you hunt. And it all boils back to hiding from deer and hiding from hunters.